The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL.
The Indianapolis Colts officially have their new starting quarterback, and that is veteran Daniel Jones.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast.
A pretty busy day today at the Colts facility, covering a press conference that decided the future of the Colts for this upcoming season, as Shane Steichen announced that Daniel Jones will be the starting quarterback going forward. According to Shane Steichen, this is not a short leash type thing. Obviously, when you make a decision like this, you anticipate the positive aspects of it. So he's going to say that this is for the entirety of the season. We'll see if that looks different if they win one game in September or something. But as of right now, Daniel Jones is the Colts starting quarterback for the entirety of the 2025 season. And we'll see how that changed from there. But Jake, for this first segment, let's get into our instant reactions to this news. Yesterday on the show, you kind of hinted that things were leaning towards Daniel Jones. I tried to read too much into Steichen's comments in the past and say it could be Richardson, and I fell flat on my face with that one there. But they end up going Jones, even though you and I both kind of said that we would have gone Richardson. So what was your overall reaction to the news today?
Yeah, I still would have gone Richardson. When I kind of sat and thought about this a little more, I thought about it. I was like, this is Shane banking on Shane more than Shane banking on any particular player, because I think a lot of people in that building still kind of rewind to 2023 and the what ifs and, what happens if we change this. And I think Shane probably wants to get himself back to a lot of the stuff that he probably did, like with Gardner, and just being able to have a quarterback that he could predict a little better and really make it be about the system rather than be about a player, like with Anthony. Like with Anthony, you can ask him to do this and this and this, but at the end of the day, he is going to do a lot of things, whether it's flop or excel, that are kind of based on him just doing his thing. And, I think it's a lot easier for a head coach and play caller to be able to live with the successes and failures if he's got a quarterback that he can predict a little better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly where he's coming at with this. And I've been trying to wrap my head around it from a coaching standpoint today. And at the end of the day, Daniel Jones is closer to the coach's kid aspect of playing the position, where it's, if I'm telling you to throw a slant, you're going to throw the slant. Is it going to be the best ball ever? Are we going to get 50 yards on the play? No, we're going to get the 5, 6, 7 yards that was intended. But that's kind of what Daniel Jones is going to give you sometimes. He's not going to always give you that, because we're not talking about a top quarterback here, but he's going to sometimes give it to you. Where Richardson, like you mentioned, is a little bit more volatile from play-to-play basis. And for me, I understand it from a coaching standpoint, looking at the film of everything Richardson's done this preseason, even and most of last year as well, and say, you know what, I just want someone who can run my offense. But the other part of me is like, look, we are in the AFC with this team right now. The AFC features 7 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, or 6 of the top 10 quarterbacks, and each of the top 4 quarterbacks in football are in the AFC. Pat Mahomes has been to the AFC Championship game every single year as a starter in the NFL, so eventually you're going to have to go through these alien quarterbacks. And I'm fine with them admitting that Anthony Richardson's not their guy. I understand being out on Anthony Richardson. But to think that Daniel Jones is your starter is your best chance to throw punches with those type of quarterbacks, that's where I have an issue with a move like this. Like, again, if Jones is coming in here to be your backup quarterback and be a guy that you can rely on while you take a chance with someone else, I'm cool with Daniel Jones. But for him to be like your full-blown starter, what's the peak of this season for the Colts? What the peak of this season is 9-10 wins and flaming out in the first round, or maybe the second round if you face an injured team in round 1. But you're not going anywhere like significant this year. And maybe that's a step in the right direction for this team, but like we're on like year 10 of Chris Ballard, or like we're on year 3 of Shane Steichen, and the young quarterback's not working out. Like, so what's the end goal here? Like, is the end goal just perseverance? Just, try to preserve the job security and survive? And again, like, if Richardson's not the answer, that's fine. But if Richardson's not the answer, why did you settle for Daniel Jones this offseason? Like, if you had any semblance that Richardson wasn't going to win this quarterback competition, go get Sam Darnold. Go get Geno Smith. I'm not saying those guys help you compete with Pat Mahomes, but they certainly get you closer than Daniel Jones. So yeah, I understand it from a coaching standpoint of just, watching the film the last couple of years and being like, you know what I got with Minshew in 2023 is a guy who could kind of move my offense and we could win some winnable games that way, where Richardson, I just don't know what I'm getting. But at the end of the day, in the AFC, man, you're going against these elite future Hall of Fame quarterbacks all the time. Like, these are like legit top tier quarterbacks, three MVP winners in the AFC right now. And Joe Burrow is probably the next guy up. If we're looking at how that award goes, you're not winning these games with a quarterback that you have to stay ahead of the sticks. You have to be in 3rd and 3 at best on 3rd down to have a chance at competing, because if you're getting into 3rd and 10, Daniel Jones isn't completing those passes for you. So yeah, I don't know. I get it from a coaching standpoint. It's just not the process I would have supported, because I think you have to go big or go home in the AFC. And I think you have to just go down with the ship if it's not going to work. You could tell me there's a 0.5% chance of Anthony Richardson getting to the level that you need him to be at, but Jones is going to be at a 0% chance. So he might give you a higher floor to like get you to those 7, 8, 9 wins, but I don't think there's anything above that with Daniel Jones. So that's kind of my instant reaction, is just like, I get it. You're going to probably have more offensive success with Daniel Jones, more consistency with him. But what more are we getting? And I don't think we're getting much more than that.
Yeah, it does make you think they probably should have taken a bigger swing if this was the end result, like you said, because what more could Anthony have done? Like the kind of the main reasoning Shane is giving is, it's kind of about the intangibles and being able to, what are guys like at the line pre and post snap, and like making sure guys are in the right spots and being where they're supposed to be, essentially being an extension of the coach on the field, which is fine. But this was kind of set up as a 50-50 winner take all thing. And I mean, this was Anthony's best camp. I've seen all 3 of them so far. I've never been more impressed with him than I have been this summer. His teammates say the same. My colleagues say the same. Like, it's pretty indisputable he's grown this summer. And if the deciding factor was, all of these things at the line and, just the operation of the offense, it's like, well, how much was he going to grow in that area just in a summer? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That is one of those things that I think takes reps and more film study and this and that. And so it's like, if Anthony was probably not going to beat a veteran who started X amount of games, then why, like you said, why was Daniel Jones the swing? Sam Darnold could have been an option. There weren't a ton of other guys out there. Like, Jones was probably among the top 2 or 3 guys they could have gotten to kind of fill that role. But like, this is just unspectacular. It's uninspired. Like you mentioned, what's the ceiling there? Like, you might even get into the playoffs. That 4th down in week 18 might flip your way and you get a wild card spot, but you're probably just going to get stomped out without that threat that Anthony Richardson brings you. Like, defenses are going to be able to game plan for Daniel Jones throughout a year. There's just things Anthony could do that you can't game plan for. So yeah. I'm with you. It seems like an end to this that we didn't really see coming because of the reasoning. I think, I guess I didn't love it all coming down to just the intangibles at the line and operating the offense. It's just
right. And I guess another part of this is like the inconsistent message from day one then of Shane Steichen's tenure, where, you're talking about the intangibles at the line and being an extension of the coach on the field and stuff. Where was all that when you drafted Anthony Richardson? You knew he wasn't going to come in from day one and be that guy. And you know what? Even if you said like, hey, we can develop that in him, why did he start over Gardner Minshew? Why did he start over Joe Flacco then? If your intangibles are the most important aspect at the line, why has he even seen the field at this point in the NFL?
And why can no one give a clear answer as to why there wasn't some sort of like really intentional, detailed plan to get him up to speed, because Anthony was also like, he had a COVID year in Florida when everything was virtual, essentially. Like, the guy was so far removed from being used to a pro process. Like, why was there not something more intentional done about getting him up to speed? Like, we don't really get that explanation from Shane Steichen. We definitely don't get it from Cam Turner. So it's like, it feels like, as much as Anthony didn't step up and snag this thing, it also feels like they didn't really do enough to get him there either.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, this is not even a Richardson defense here from both of us, because he hasn't been good enough. He hasn't. And the NFL is not for long if you haven't been good enough. So I'm fine with the Colts moving on. It's just the way that this process has been to eventually end up on Daniel Jones as your starter going into week 1 in what is essentially a make or break season for Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard. I just think the process could have been so much better from day one from the Colts in terms of getting someone better than Daniel Jones, or again, like the process since drafting Anthony Richardson, where it's like, if these intangibles are so essential, why was he starting from day 1, or even from year 2, or even year 3? Like, why was he even in a competition here then, if those are the things that you're looking for?
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
The New Orleans Saints still have not announced a winner to their quarterback battle, and that is great news for rookie Tyler Shuck.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast.
If I wanted to put my tinfoil hat on for just a moment, the non-decision for the New Orleans Saints around the quarterback battle on Tuesday, following the sort of peak moment of the offseason so far. Spencer Rattler leading the 2-minute drive at the end of the game, converting the 2-point conversion to force the 17-17 tie against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That meant to me that the New Orleans Saints want to give every opportunity to both of these quarterbacks to go out there and win this quarterback battle. So it's a great thing for rookie quarterback Tyler Shuck. You come off of that first week, Tyler Shuck could have been named the starter then. The Saints didn't name that starter. It gave Spencer Rattler an opportunity to come back. And even though he wasn't the starter in week 2 of the preseason up against Jacksonville, he got his opportunity to bounce back and make his fight for that roster spot. Now, coming off of that Sunday game up against Jacksonville, a real opportunity with a lot of momentum there to say, you know what? Starting the season off with Spencer Rattler week 1. We'll see how things kind of, work out over the course of the first early portion of the season, and then potentially turn things over to Tyler Shuck at that point, or keep working with Spencer Rattler if he's winning games, all that. But instead of the Saints doing that, they give Tyler Shuck now an opportunity to respond. So now, as we look at this quarterback battle between both of these New Orleans Saints quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler, 25 of 35 through the first 2 preseason games. Tyler Shuck, 24 of 34. Spencer Rattler, 252 passing yards. Tyler Shuck, 231. Spencer Rattler, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Tyler Shuck, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Spencer Rattler's passer rating hovering around 39, while Tyler Shuck's hovers around 36. These two players are in nearly identical situations. And if I'm being completely honest, that has and gives a lot of credence to the momentum, development, and the growth of Tyler Shuck here over the course of the past couple of weeks, because as a guy that's coming in that doesn't have any NFL experience, going up against a guy that's got 6 starts, the fact that this is close just from the preseason perspective, just from the live action perspective, is actually a pretty good showing on Tyler Shuck's part. But this battle now, just as we predicted it would be following Sunday's game against Jacksonville, is going to go through another 3 days of practice and a game on Saturday up against the Denver Broncos. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Well, Russ, but it's probably just that Kellen Moore didn't tell the media that there was a starting quarterback that was made. Well, I'm inclined to believe Kellen Moore when he said that the team doesn't know yet either, and that they're close to making a decision, but haven't yet made that decision. The good thing that we have seen is that this has very much become a two-man race, that this has very much become about Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough. Those are the guys that are the focus in this conversation. And so both of them are going to get additional opportunities to go out there and be able to get things done. So it will all continue going up in tomorrow's, or rather today's practice, which is the Wednesday practice, which will be at the Superdome on Wednesday. And that practice is going to allow the Saints to go through some scripted drills as well as some call-it sequences. And remember, the call-it sequences are when Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley are actively calling offensive and defensive plays against one another. The players simply have to go out there and execute and show what it is that they can do. So that's going to give both of these quarterbacks another opportunity during that Wednesday practice to be able to get some work in with their first team offensive line, first team weapons, all those other pieces. As we discussed in yesterday's episode, Spencer Rattler throughout his career so far, both preseasons and the regular season accounted for, has seen hardly any snaps with guys like Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed on the field together, right? Hardly any dropbacks with those two guys on the field together. They've had individual, snaps with Spencer Rattler throughout that season last year in 2024. But he also has seen 0 snaps when it comes to either of those guys, Alvin Kamara and Eric McCoy, all out on the field together, and only had 1 second half against Washington as well as 7 snaps against Green Bay with Eric McCoy as a whole. And by then, both seasons for Chris Olave and and Spencer Rattler were done. Meanwhile, Tyler Shough saw 11 snaps with Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed last week, but getting both of these guys more reps with all of their key pieces, Eric McCoy and Alvin Kamara included, along with Juwan Johnson as well, that's a pretty good situation to be able to kind of get these guys into for another week of practices and get their chance to be able to be seen by the coaching staff. So I think right now, the thing that's going to end up separating this battle between these two is just simply who can show consistency first. The first quarterback that came in for both of those preseason games had not as much success as the guys that came in the second half of those preseason games. And it's also been 2 weeks now to where we've seen the first team quarterback under pressure on a greater percentage of snaps from the offensive line, or from the opposing defense rather, than the second quarterback to come in the later part of the game. So what it clearly shows you is that these quarterbacks still have some evaluation left to do. I mean, look, they're both converted 10 first downs. They've both been responsible for converting 10 first downs. One's been sacked 3 times. The other's been sacked 4 times. Tyler Shough has a larger pressure to sack percentage of around 30%, while Spencer Rattler's is hovering around 11, but both in terms of turnover-worthy throws, one's at 2.1%, the other's at 2.4%. At big-time throws, they're remotely the same, very close as well. So these guys have been so evenly matched in the preseason live action, which you might give more credence to when it comes down to the quarterback battle. But this team is also having to take into consideration everything going all the way back to the first training camp battle as well. So yeah, take this as far as you can. This is something we said was going to happen, and now we're seeing it all play out, even though one of the videos that I accidentally uploaded on social media said otherwise. Sometimes you work ahead, you prepare for all the possibilities, and you still mess up, right? It happens. But I mean, I think both of these players have shown really good things in their own way. And clearly Kellen Moore and the New Orleans Saints coaching staff thinks that very much as well. And so this is going to go for another week.
Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, on drinks, on merch, on a bigger group if you want. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer it gets to first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worrying out of buying. Gametime has last-minute tickets and zone deals for big savings, like 10% off exclusive zone deals for FIFA Club World Cup matches. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed.
Cam Ward and Jeffrey Simmons got in a fight at practice on Monday, and I think it's a great thing for the Tennessee Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast.
Cam Ward and Jeffrey Simmons getting in a fight at practice. And again, I think this is an absolutely great thing for the Tennessee Titans. New leaders need to establish themselves, and we're seeing that happen right now with obviously Cam Ward being at the forefront of that. But with new leadership and new guys who refuse to back down, that may cause somewhat of an issue at times with the guys who used to be the primary leaders and the guys who used to make everybody else back down. And we know on this team, that's Jeffrey Simmons. So what exactly happened? Well, a couple of plays before the fight happened, according to multiple reports coming out of training camp. I mean, literally the moment practice ended, it was just a wave of tweets about this fight and videos with players talking about this fight between Cam Ward and Jeffrey Simmons. But sounds like Jeffrey Simmons and J.C. Latham got tied up a little bit. Latham may have gotten the best of Jeffrey Simmons on a play, and a couple of plays later, Cam Ward throws a touchdown pass to Calvin Ridley in the end zone on a red zone drill. And what does Cam Ward do? Comes up behind Jeff Simmons, gives him a little shove, hits him with the Cam Ward celly with the hand waving in the face. And as I would expect any alpha, high-level defensive menace to do, Jeffrey Simmons pushed him right back to get out of my face. And anytime, and this is also something that I would expect anytime somebody puts their hands on the quarterback during practice, well, that's going to cause some people to react to that as well. So, of course, a little bit of a fracas breaks out with the offense, the defense, everybody kind of in the middle of it. I saw a couple reporters saying that Titans PR had to get Jeffrey Simmons back to the locker room because he was so fired up. Not surprised to hear that with Jeff. We know that Big Jeff has a little bit of a temper, always has. But I got to be honest with you. I know that there are going to be people out there who spin this as a bad thing. They're going to use it as a way to talk bad about Jeff. They're going to use it as a way to talk bad about Callahan and the team. And you guys know I'll be critical of the team. I usually get criticized by you guys for being too critical of the team. So I'm going to be critical when there's the opportunity to do it, and I think it makes sense, and that's how I feel. But this is something, this fight between Simmons and Ward, I love this. I love everything about this. This is what is supposed to happen as new leaders emerge. It's been Jeffrey Simmons for how many years? You know, it was Big Jeff and it was Derrick Henry. And Henry was never really a super vocal guy in the locker room. And we know that Ryan Tannehill isn't some rah-rah, blah-blah-blah, lead the guys. And we know that Will Levis isn't leading the guys like Cam Ward is right now. And we know that Calvin Ridley isn't necessarily that rah-rah energy guy, and we know that Peter Skoronski isn't necessarily that rah-rah energy guy. So where does it come from? Where does the attitude, where does the swagger, where does the confidence, where does the get back, where does that come from the Titans offense? When was the last time the Titans had a player who would score and taunt their opponent? And listen, I'm not sitting out here saying that taunting is good for the team, and but at the end of the day, you gotta have a little bit of edge to play this football game. You got to have a little bit of an edge in life, in my opinion. Now, different people need different levels of edge, and depending on what you want to do in your life and what your goals are, maybe it's not as necessary. But I can tell you, in professional sports, you need to have somewhat of an edge. And at the end of the day, every single great pro sports team ever had a couple of a-holes. A couple of guys that would get in your face and let you know, I'm cooking you. All right? And that's what the Titans need. That's what we desperately need. As people who watch the football team every weekend, we need some life to the offense. We need somebody who's going to get in somebody's face, somebody who's going to hit a little dance after a big catch or a big play, somebody to get the rest of the people fired up. And you know who I want that to be first and foremost, no matter what on my offense? I want it to be my quarterback. So I love that Cam Ward, after having a couple of down practices, and the defense is talking, Simmons is always talking. So when the defense had their successes and had their good practices that we talked about and had their good moments, Big Jeff was yelling at, you can't stop me, this is too easy. But so you know what? Yeah, Big Jeff, eat a little bit of that. My boy Trench King, J.C. Latham, the lockout master, smacked you a couple of bit ago. Now we're scoring. Take some of it. I love that Cam Ward's given that back. I love that. That is great news for Titans fans. That's great news for the energy and the swagger and the fire and the passion of this football team. And not only that, but the fact that J.C. Latham got Jeffrey Simmons on a play and then was talking. Latham is a guy. I say Pete isn't. Calvin is an exciting player who will talk, but Calvin is more of a laid-back guy. You know what I mean? He's a real chill guy. I need somebody on that offensive line to be the barker. I need somebody out there with Max Dog. And look, I think Skoronski is an awesome player, but Skoronski isn't going to get in Big Jeff's face and call him this and that and blah and let him know. That's just not Pete's style. But that is J.C. Latham's style. And for Latham to take a leap, not only in his body, not only in his technique, but in his leadership, his personality, and his confidence, I want J.C. Latham putting people on the ground during games this fall, and I want him to let them know about it too. Let's go back. When was the last time the Titans truly had a dog who was super vocal and in your face? Henry had his moments, but that's not, he's more of the silent killer. It was A.J. Brown. It was Taylor Lewan. And say what you want about Taylor Lewan, but Lewan gave the Titans attitude. He gave the Titans personality. The Titans were more interesting and more fun to watch and more fun to talk about because Taylor Lewan was on the football team. That's why I always will give Taylor Lewan his credit, because they desperately needed not only the player that Taylor was, but the person that Taylor Lewan was. And the Titans still benefit to this day from Taylor Lewan's outgoing personality. So forgive me if I'm excited to hear that my starting quarterback in the future of this franchise, the face of the franchise, ain't afraid to tell Jeffrey Simmons, here, take that. And I'm happy that my young second-year offensive lineman, who I expect and hope becomes elite in the NFL, I hope he's willing to tell Jeffrey Simmons, you ain't all that, bud. I'm here now. The Titans need that going forward. The Titans need that change in leadership. They need that new blood. They need those new players to step up. Because for the last few years, with Henry leaving and AJ leaving, and it's just been Jeff. I don't want Jeff to dominate everybody around him. I want people who are equal to Jeffrey Simmons, who can go back at Jeffrey Simmons, who can go toe-to-toe with Jeffrey Simmons. That's what we want. So, look, I would be more mad. There are some people who are going to be like, oh, you never touch the quarterback. You never, that's so stupid. Look, it wasn't like stupid Shamar Stewart with the Bengals where he's falling into Joe Burrow during a play and knocking him down. This was afterwards, some pushing and shoving. This isn't like Jeffrey Simmons coming in low and hitting Cam Ward in the pocket during a play. This isn't to that. Yes, that is outrageous, but a little pushing and shoving after the play, some barking at each other. I love that. I need more of that. And that's why I'm so hype about Cam Ward, hype about J.C. Latham. New leadership for the Tennessee Titans is emerging. They're willing to go right at Jeff Simmons, and that is good news for the Tennessee Titans.